Bava Kamma daf mem tes beginning the Mishnah at the bottom of daf mem ches. Mishnah discusses two cases of a woman who was injured and lost her child. She was pregnant and she lost her child. So the two cases are if she was attacked by an ox, and the ox was attempting to attack another ox and instead struck the woman, killed her, and made the child be lost. So the owner of the ox is chayav to pay for her, but not for the child that was lost. However, if it was a man who was aiming for another man, instead struck the woman and killed the child as well, he has to pay both for her and for the child. Now, how do you pay the value of the child? So the Mishnah says, Machlokas, according to the Bava Kamma, you evaluate the value of the woman with her child and the value of the woman without her child. You don't evaluate the child independently. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says no, because if you do that, the woman is worth more after she gives birth than she is before she gives birth. The cryptic statement the Gemara will explain. So instead, what you do is you evaluate the child itself. How much is it worth? Now, who do you pay the money to? So you pay it to the husband. Rashi brings the Torah specifically said the money goes to the husband. If he is not around, his inheritors take the money. If there are no inheritors, if he was an Eved, she was a Shivcha, and they were freed, or they were Gerim, and then there's no one to give it to, so the mazik is Potter because he is, the money's Hefker, and he's the one who's claiming it because he's holding it. The Gemara now begins. The Gemara makes a diuk. The Mishnah had said that the shar is Potter on the value of the child, whether it was intending to gore another shar. That implies had it been intending to gore the woman, then it would be chayiv on the vlad. So the Gemara says this is a kasha on Rav Bar Abba, who we saw earlier in the Masach on Daf Mem Beis, who says that if the shar is mechavein to attack the woman and it kills the vlad, then it is pater. Here we see clearly from the diak that it would be chayiv for that. So the Gemara says, will answer no. The same halacha applies in case of the shar attacking, whether it was intending to attack the woman or wasn't intending to attack the woman, was intending to attack another shar. It doesn't make a difference. Either way, it's pater. The only reason that it said here the case where it was intending to attack another shar is because in the next case we're going to be talking about a man who attacks, and there it's only true that the halacha if he was intending to attack another man. So we said the man is intending to attack a man. So parallel to that, we talked about whether shar was intending to attack a shar. But in Echnami, the halacha would be true even if he was intending to attack the woman herself. Now, says Rav Papa aside halacha, if a shar attacks a shivcha and kills the child, a pregnant shivcha and kills the child, there he would have to pay the demei vlados, because you just evaluate like a chamar. It's the same as a chamar. It says shvulachem payim a chamar. The Kenanim have the same halachic status as a chamar, and therefore if you devalue the chamar by killing the child of a pregnant one, same thing applies to the shivcha here, and you wouldn't get into the special halachos of a pregnant woman. Now, next the Mishnah said, how do you pay for the vlad? So when I ask, why do we say, in the expression we say demei vlados, the money of the child? We should talk about not only the money of the child, we should also talk about the increased value of the woman. When a woman is pregnant, she looks larger and healthier, and therefore she's worth more. That's another increase that we'll have in evaluating how much he owes. So why don't we talk about that? Someone says, yes, that is what we meant. We phrase it as the value of the child and the value that it inflates the value of the woman. Okay, the Gemara now moves on to analyze the discussion in the Mishnah about how you evaluate the vlad. So he said that Rav Shimon ben Gamliel said that the woman's worth more after the birth than before the birth. So if you're going to subtract what she's worth after from what she's worth before, you end up paying zero. The Gemara wants to know, what does he mean? So the Gemara offers a few explanations. The Gemara first brings Rabbah, who says that's exactly what it means to say. It means that she's worth more after the birth than before the birth, because before the birth she is in a dangerous situation. She's pregnant. She has to go through a birth. Anything could happen, and therefore her net value on the market would be less. And therefore, after she gives birth, she doesn't have that sakana anymore. It would be more, and therefore you end up paying nothing. The Gemara quotes a brisa that says this exact explanation, the way Rabbah said it, word for word. The Gemara now brings the second shot, which is Rava. Rava says what he means to say is as follows. There's two parts to the value. There's the value of the vlad, and then there's the value that the woman herself is worth more because of the pregnancy that she has. That goes down after she gives birth, because she doesn't have that extra size and extra volume and whatever's involved in that. Now that extra, that value doesn't go to the husband. The husband is exeris akasav that he gets the value of the vlad, not the value of the woman herself is worth more. So therefore, he's arguing as to how you split this. He says you have to calculate the two things separately. He says that the mevladas you give to the husband, but then you also have to evaluate her and her own personal value besides for the vlad, and you have to evaluate that, and then you split that with the husband, because part of it is caused by the vlad, which belongs to him, and part of it is her own, and that belongs to her. And Mar quotes a Rice that says this as well. It quotes of Shimon ben Gamliel says the same cheshbon, but it adds in you also have to pay for the tsar. You have to pay for the nezek separately, and the tsar separately, besides for the value of her increased value because of the pregnancy. Now, the Gemara says you have here, therefore, a kasha between Shimon ben Gamliel and Shimon ben Gamliel as a woman worth more while she's pregnant or after the pregnancy. In the previous brisa we brought, she's worth more after the pregnancy because she's out of the danger. Here it's saying that you're going to split the value that she goes down because of the loss of the pregnancy. That implies she's worth more before the pregnancy. She's worth more during the pregnancy than after the birth. So Gemara says it's not a contradiction. It depends if it's a first pregnancy or a later pregnancy. At first, a pregnancy, the danger is more serious, and therefore she's worth more while she's pregnant than she's worth more after the pregnancy is over. If it's a later one, the danger is not as severe, and therefore the increase in value and size overrides what the danger might be. Now, according to this explanation, there are Rabbanan who are saying that even the value of the pregnancy, besides for the vlad itself, also goes to the husband. What's the reason for that? So the Gemara says that we have a Mishnah that says that they have a drasha in the pasuk describing this situation. It says v'yatzu yeladeha. You can see from here that she must have been pregnant. Why in the previous descriptions it starts off calling her an isha hara, a pregnant woman? That is extra word. Obviously to teach that the hara, the haryana itself, also is included in the package here and belongs to the husband, and therefore he would receive that value after this incident occurs. Now, what's Rav Shimon Gamliel going to do with that drasha? He learns that she is zeicha in her own pregnant value. So the Gemara says, he says this for a different thing, which we learn in a brisa of Rav ben Yaakov, who says that it's only the blow that she gets struck has to be on the hara. That we call her an isha hara because she has to be hit in hara, in the area of the womb, which the Gemara defines, says Rav Papa, as the entire torso. It doesn't have to be exactly by the womb, but the entire torso, the area that the Gemara calls that the warmth and the heat of the vlad spreads into. That's to exclude a hand or a leg, which is not part of the torso. The Gemara now turns its attention to the case of the shifcha who was freed, or the geiris. That we said there are no yorshim, and therefore it goes to the mazik. He gets to keep it himself. So the Gemara notes that the woman's still alive. We're just referring to the fact that the husband had died, and the husband who's a Yerush, the husband is the one who's receiving the value of the Vladais, he's gone. So the Gemara quotes Rabbah, and says this is all only referring to where the husband was alive at the time of the attack, and he died afterwards. That way, the rights to collect the Demei Vladais are his, and then because he died, he loses them, and therefore they become hefker because he has no yarshim, and the mazik gets to keep them himself. However, had the husband died before the attack, then the woman is yarsh from her husband the value of the demei vlodos. Then it's her demei vlodos. So then, if the attack happens, she gets paid the demei vlodos. It's not hefker, and it doesn't go to the mazik. He doesn't get to keep that. So that's Rab's opinion. So the Gemara says that Rav Chizda, which the Gemara calls Mari Zichi, the owner of this tsuya, so he says it's not correct. The vladis are not money or valuables that you can just inherit. The woman doesn't inherit the value of the demei vladis with the nezikin from her husband when he dies. The Torah gave their rights to the husband to collect the demei vladis. If he's gone, so it's gone. It's not something that's inheritable, and therefore the husband can't collect it, and the mazik gets to keep it for himself. It doesn't go to the isha. Now, the Gemara is a kasha. A brisa that says if a woman gets hit and she loses her children, so he needs to pay nezek and tsar to the woman, That's her Nezikin that she collects. The Mevlodes goes to the husband. If the husband is gone, you give it to his inheritors. If the woman had gone, if she died, then you give the Nezikin Sar to her inheritors. And it continues, and says, if she was a Shivchan, she was freed, or she's a Geiris, then he's Zeichin, that is, the Mazik gets to keep it, doesn't have to give it to anyone. So the Gemara asks, the Kashi obviously is that it's saying here that the Demei Vlades stay by the Mazik. He inherits them, he doesn't need it to pay them. According to what Rabbah said, it should go to the woman. So the Gemara says, how is this a kasha? Just like Rabbah said, Pshat in our Mishnah was that the husband was alive at the time of the Hezek and then he died. There's also talking about where the husband was alive at the time of the Hezek and then he died. It's no worse than the Mishnah. Or a second shot I could tell you. Really, it is referring to where the husband had died first. You just have to change one letter. Instead of it saying Zacha, the Mazik gets to keep the money, it should say Zachsa, the woman gets the money. Okay, the Gemara now wants to say this question as to whether she's Yeirish, the Zchus and the payment for the Vlades after the death of her husband. That question is a Machlekes Tanaim. The Gemara quotes a Brisa that says that if a Bas Yisrael is married to a Ger, she becomes pregnant from him, and then she gets wounded, she gets hit by someone. So if the Ger is alive, then the Demei Vlades, and then the Demei Vlades, the value of the lost children, goes to the Ger. If it's after the death of the Ger, it's a Machlekes Tanaim, one Tana says Chayev, one Tana says Pater. So the one wants to say this is exactly the Machlekes between Rabbah and Rav Chizda as to whether she inherits that right and she collects it, or she can't inherit that right and therefore becomes hefker with the death of the ger and he doesn't need it to pay it at all. So the Gemara says, is it true to say that this machlekes Rav Chizda and Rabbah has to line up with these two shitas in the Brisa? So the Gemara says Rabbah certainly cannot fit with the opinion that says Pater. He holds Chayiv, and there's no way to fit him in with the other Shita. However, Rav Chizda, there are a couple ways to fit it in. That even though Rav Chizda ordinarily would say that you're Pater from it, and that she's not Zaycha in it, it's the husband's, there is one aspect that she's a Zaycha in, and that is her own increased value because of the size of the pregnancy. So if we have a couple ways to say it, we could say that it is all holding like Rav Chizda, that she really does not inherit anything, and therefore the mazik is pater. However, on the shvach vlades, the value that she personally increased, that of course is hers, and that you're chayav on. And the question is, does that exist or not? Is that a separate payment? And that we saw earlier was a machlekes between Rabbanan and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, whether that's a payment that goes to her or that also goes to the husband, and therefore that is the machlekes here. The opinion of the Rabbanan that she doesn't get that money, it goes to the husband. There, it's completely hefker, and the mazik is completely zeich in that, and he's pater and completely. The opinion here is this chayiv is Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, who says that in that value, of her own increased value, that goes to her, and that's what he's chayiv for. So the Gemara asks, if that's true even if the ger is still alive. Why does it have to say if the ger had died, then he's chayiv that money? Even if he's alive, she still gets that money. We should just say that. Why are we bringing in the death of the ger for? So Gemara says, no, there is a difference, because we said, remember, that money is split between the ger and the wife. So if the ger would be alive, you have to split it. Here, that the ger had died, she gains all of it. Another way of saying it is that it's all of Shimon Gamliel's opinion. In the Brisa, one Tana is saying chayav because it's talking about her own increased value, and the one that says it's pater is talking about the other thing. It's talking about the value of the vlad itself. Where is the kasha? Hold on a second. You're telling me that if the husband would be alive, you would split it. That means that you're saying that after the husband had died, she is zeicha in his chaylik. If she's zeicha in his chaylik, why can't she be zeicha in everything? Why can't she be zeicha in the Demei Vlades also? And if Shimon Gamliel agrees that you're zeicha in the Demei Vlades, then the Rabbanan, who are talking about the Demei Vlades only, should certainly say that you're chayiv, that she's zeich in that as well. So then everybody should be saying that she's zeich in the Demei Avodas. It's clearly a proof to Rabban against Rav Chisda. The Gemara answer is no. It has nothing to do with it. Because here we're in the opinion of Rosh Gamliel that she's zeicha in her half of her own increased value. Since she's getting a piece, she could be zeicha in the rest of it. Rabban and Rav Chisda were arguing about what she has no shaykhis to. That's the Demei Vladais. There is where there's a machlekes, and there is where Rav Chisda will say she doesn't get any part of it. The Gemara now goes deeper into the sugya of nichsei, ger, property that was owned by the ger, and then he dies as no Yarshim and becomes Hefker. What are the halachas of that? So Gemara says the question was asked by Rav Yeva Sabater or Nachman. Somebody's holding on to contracts of chayvlis that are owed to the ger, and there's a shibud on them. So this is property which is meshubad. There's a lien on them that the ger can collect. So he's holding on to the contracts. Now he thinks that this gives him the right to control the land when the ger dies and becomes hefker. He thinks that this is like a handle holding onto the land. That's not true, because he doesn't get the shibud. The question is, though, does he get the paper at least? Now, he thinks he's holding the paper as a way of holding the land. He doesn't intend to be kind of the paper. Or do you say he does intend to be kind of the paper? That was the question that he asked. He said, Ani, my master, please answer me. So he answered him, what does he need the paper for? Paper is useless. You think he's going to use it as a cover for the bottle? And he said, yeah, he'll use it as a cover for the bottle. Okay, next halacha, the Gemara quotes Rabbah, who says that if a person has a mashkain in the property of the ger, that is, he owes money to the ger, and the ger is holding a mashkain of his, and then the ger dies, so what happens to that mashkain? So if somebody else comes and it takes the mashkain from the property of the ger, you take that mashkain away from him. He doesn't have a right to get it. It doesn't become hefker, because since once the ger dies, the money is not owed to him anymore. So the entire loan evaporates, and therefore the mashkain goes back to its original owner. And therefore you can't take that from the ger, it goes back to the owner. However, in the reverse case, if the ger was money to Yisrael, and Yisrael is holding a mashkain for the ger, and then the ger dies, so now the Yisrael is holding something which is hefker. It was a mashkain before, now it's hefker, but someone else comes and takes it away from the Yisrael, so does he get to keep that or not? So the Gemara says he gets to keep whatever is more than the value of the loan, meaning that the mashkain repays the loan now, because the ger had died and he's not going to pay it. So the one who's holding the mashkain could keep the value of the mashkain up until what's owed him. If there's anything extra left over, it goes to the person who grabbed it. Someone asks, why should that be? Let the guy who's holding the mashkain be kind it. It's in his chutzner, it's in his property. And we know that Rav Yosef Bar Chanina says that a person's property can be kind things for him even without his intent. Lamar answers that the case is that the owner of the chutzner, that is the one who's holding the mashkain, he's not there. It's in his property, but he's not there. And your property can't be kind of you if you are not in it. Since you yourself aren't kind of it because you're not there, your property can't either. And the Gemara concludes it's not the halacha. The halacha is that if it would be in his property, he would be kind it. The case here is that it was not in his property at the time of the death of the ger, and therefore that's why he can't be kind it, but otherwise he would, even if he wasn't present.